On March 18th, 2025, 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue went missing in Toledo, Ohio. Her family was initially unsure if she had run away, but her grandmother insisted that wasn't like her. Her grandmother described Kei'Mani as a latchkey kid, a kid who comes home to an empty house after school because her parents or her guardians are still at work, often requiring them to have a key or a latch key to enter. Join me on this episode of The Point of No Return as we talk about Kei'Mani's time alone and what that led to, which was an unbelievable search that continues to unravel shocking facts. I'm Amanda Washington.
And I'm Michelai Graham.
The Point of No Return is a true crime podcast focused on cold cases, murders, and mysteries. TPONR is a fact-based podcast. We talk about theories, we talk about cases, facts, and more. Our podcast title is a double entendre, representative of the perpetrators and victims of crimes. Once they cross that line, there's no turning back. I also would like to give you guys a little viewer discretion on this episode because this episode does involve children and some violence and abuse. So just to let you guys know, the following content and discussions does contain violence, abuse, and the tragic death of a child. Some details may be distressing or sensitive to some viewers, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. All right. So let's get started, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Kei'Mani. And because of my disclaimer, obviously you know that this story ends in tragedy. It kind of gives it away. If you know me, I love to lead something and let people guess if the person that's missing, oftentimes when we have a murder case, if they're actually murdered or if they were found or what happened. But there's still some mystery that you guys don't know. So again, our victim's name today is Kei'Mani, and she lived in Toledo, Ohio. And in Toledo, she lived with her grandmother. Her grandmother's name is Dorothy, okay? So Dorothy said that she arrived home from work, and when she arrived home from work, she came to find that the door was unlocked to the house where her and Kei'Mani lived. Here's a direct quote. "It was Monday morning. When I came home, she wasn't here. Of course, she was supposed to have been on her way to school, but the way the house is set up, when I got here, it was in complete disarray. She wasn't here, so I called the school to check in. They said she never arrived." Dorothy also noticed that Kei'Mani's keys and glasses were left behind. It's important to note that her grandmother also said that it was very hard for Kei'Mani to see without the glasses. And so 99.9% of the time when she left out of the house, especially to do things like go to school, she would leave with her glasses. Another alarming fact was that the stove was left on and that grandma could smell gas when she came into the house. So she said also another interesting thing was that some of Kei'Mani's clothes were scattered around the house as well when she got home. Here's another direct quote. "Other than her and me in the house, it's just two dogs. So who turned the stove on if it wasn't Kei'Mani?" That was kind of suspicious. Her glasses and underclothes were by the couch in the front. Her pajamas were also on the dining room floor. So Kei'Mani hadn't been seen by the grandma since Sunday. So if you guys haven't caught on by now, the grandma works an overnight job whereby Kei'Mani is left alone for hours and hours on end. She didn't come back home until the following morning around 9 something, and Kei'Mani had been left alone since the night previous to that. So that would have been Sunday night. So the last time that her grandma saw her was on Sunday. So immediately on Monday, when they figured out that Kei'Mani was missing, her family started making flyers and handing out, posters that she was missing, urging anybody with information to call the police, to contact the police. So her grandma also told police and the news that she was a very responsible young lady. If anything were to ever happen to her, she had a phone and she knew to call the grandma or to call the police. So anything like this would just be out of the ordinary. She also didn't think that Kei'Mani ran away because she never showed signs of running away or anything like that before. So also I want to note that Kei'Mani's father is in the picture. This is also Dorothy, the grandma, is Kei'Mani's maternal grandmother. So this is Kei'Mani's mother's mother. Dorothy is, okay? So Kei'Mani's father recalled the last time that he saw Kei'Mani. He said he saw Kei'Mani late Sunday night. So when he saw Kei'Mani late Sunday night, he said that he received a phone call from her that she was frightened to be at the home alone. Here's a direct quote from Dad. Dad said, "I came over because she said it seemed like somebody was trying to break into the house. My cousin and I stayed for about an hour, and we left around 12:30 a.m."
Why would
So
they have just stayed with her?
that is what Dad said. He said that they left around 12:30 a.m. I don't know. Dad's name, also for your records, is Darnell Jones, okay? That is her father's name. I'm taking y'all slow because I want you to get all the facts.
Honey, you're not going slow at all.
Oh, okay. I'm giving you a lot.
Yeah, I'm keeping up.
Okay. So the investigation begins. And the police in Toledo are looking for her. Kei'Mani is described as, she's a tall girl for her age. Mind you, she's only 13. She's 5'6", 120 pounds, black hair, brown eyes. So at the time, she was living with her maternal grandmother. These are just some things we already know. Here is what her mother had to say to police. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be sharing my screen a lot this episode because I want y'all to get the tea on this. This episode, y'all, was also kind of like TikTok sensationally, and I didn't really notice how much it was on TikTok until, I just started searching stuff on TikTok, and I was like, oh wait, the people in the TikToks streets are in the weeds of this. Like they really on one. So I think you guys will be interested to know what the people on TikTok had to say about this. So here is what they're saying, what her mother said to the news.
Honestly, breaking news. I've been falling the apart since I found out. I've legitimately been on social media since the minute I found out, spreading awareness, sending out flyers, contact information, anything to get my baby home. I have not slept in 3 days. I have not ate in 3 days. We need all the support we can get from anybody. We don't care who it is. Please just come out and help us find my name.
Okay, so we have now seen a clip from Kei'Mani's mom, clearly very distraught, very in distress. But before now, have you heard me talk about Kei'Mani's mom? We only know about Dorothy, her mother, and Darnell, the daddy. That's all we know. So the interesting thing, as I'm sleuthing through the web on the TikTok street, so y'all, if you are in Toledo, I know that this has been like the focal point of Toledo news this week and the last week. And by this week, I mean the week of about March 18th through about the end of the month of March of 2025. It has been hot in the Toledo streets. And if you are to go on TikTok, if you were to go on Instagram, even Facebook, you're going to find a lot of information from locals in Toledo telling you the story on boots on the ground type of reporting in this particular case. So this was happening in real time for these people. Like the police were solving the investigation, but the community was heavily involved in this case. And so because the community was heavily involved, you do see a lot of things that they're saying, of course. So some of this stuff is hearsay, some of it's rumors. But what I did find out about Mom is Mom doesn't live far from Kei'Mani at all. Mom actually has custody of her. She pays child support. So her and her mother share custody of Kei'Mani. However, Kei'Mani was mainly with Dorothy, her grandmother. Okay? So during this time...
She just said it. She has other kids. So I'm
Yes.
assuming that she has other kids with another man. Seems like her and the father are not together, right?
They are not together.
Okay.
All right. So naturally you would think because she's a missing teen that what would be sent out?
An Amber Alert.
Okay. Right. I was thinking the same thing. So here is, I'm going to give you guys some of the qualifications of an Amber Alert or what you need in order for things to be an Amber Alert. You know, in one of my past jobs where I was a communications major with a group of people that looked for missing children, we had a lot of training about Amber Alerts, and I found out some very interesting things about Amber Alerts. You would think that almost most children or all children were going Amber Alerts, but that's not the case at all. So here is what it takes for people to get basically an Amber Alert issued for them. Here's the criteria. There has to be a reasonable belief by law enforcement that there has been an abduction that has occurred. The law enforcement agency also has to believe that the child is currently in imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death. There's also enough descriptive information about the victim and the abduction that has happened in order to issue an Amber Alert. The person also has to be years of age 17 or younger. And then also, when they do it, they include this on the child abduction flag list, and they are also entered into the National Crime Information System. So if you are a runaway or you are believed to be a runaway, technically they do not send out an Amber Alert for you because you are not believed to be in any type of imminent danger or that any bodily harm has happened to you. So they don't have any clues or any things that are leading them to think that Kei'Mani is necessarily in any imminent danger at this time, even though she's missing. So according to that, the police in Toledo do not send out an Amber Alert.
I mean, the door unlocked and the house being kind of a mess and the gas being on and the clothes being everywhere she ran away.
And Grandma said she wasn't the type of kid to run away.
And also, I'm like, y'all don't know that. Y'all don't know she didn't run away. You don't know if she did run away. You don't know if she got abducted. I feel like there needs to be a line under Amber Alert that's like, if we don't have the facts around anything, we send out an Amber Alert because this is still a missing child.
Yes.
And it's like, you could turn it off if you find out she ran away, but runaways can be in danger. Two things can be true at once. They could be a runaway and they could still be in danger.
But, and you know what, to my point earlier about the point of her grandma saying she's not a runaway and blah, blah, blah. I think it didn't matter. It was a little girl, a black little girl, and it's the same thing that we see all the time. But because this community came together so well, they really, really pushed the needle forward, I believe, in helping find out what happened to this baby and in record-breaking time. So here's a quick timeline. Y'all know TPONR, we love a timeline. We might as well call ourselves the Point of No Timeline.
That was good.
So Kei'Mani was reported missing officially on March 18th, but no Amber Alert was sent out. This was because, like we said, she didn't meet the Amber Alert qualifications or the criteria. So a tip was given to the Toledo police later on. So in between this time, they had search parties. Like when I tell you the people in Toledo had their boots on ground, they was outside looking for that baby. It was search parties. The people at school were looking for it was past teachers that were talking to the news. Like they were on it. Literally, Team Kei'Mani. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this all of the search and everything happened on the 17th, right? I'm looking at the calendar now. And then because the 18th was a Tuesday.
Yes, but
So
that's when they officially said that she was missing.
But they probably called the police on the 17th and stuff, but the police didn't.
They called the police on the 17th. Correct.
Okay.
Yes, but she was officially reported missing by authorities on the 18th.
Okay.
So they're looking for no leads, really. The mom is talking to the police. The grandma's talking to the police. Dad is talking to the police as well as the news. And they're, pleading, Kei'Mani, if you're out there, please come home. Also, if you've abducted her, please send her back. So a tip later on in the week was given to the Toledo Police Department about a possible body being inside of a house that was once burned down and is now abandoned. So when the body was reportedly found in the house, the community spread the news like they did before, and a lot of people showed up to this abandoned house quickly. So as the police are going through it and they're trying to see if it's a crime scene or not, see if there's a body in there, following up on the tip. The community shows up. I don't know if somebody saw like hella cop cars. They said that there was, they talked to the lead detective on the scene, and he said initially there were about 10 to 12 cops that were there. So I'm assuming maybe in this neighborhood where the abandoned house was, there were also, you can see like it was other homes there. I don't know if somebody said, hey, yo, the police just pulled up. They probably got a body in there. And hella people just started pulling up, getting on Facebook Live and TikTok Live and stuff like that. But when I tell you these people pulled up, it was like a group of 50 to 60 people that pulled up, and they were just like outside with their camera phones waiting with the police, including Kei'Mani's mother.
Yeah, I'm thinking about just my experience being in the Midwest and seeing like just different neighborhoods, like much like honestly DC. You could be on a really nice block, and you know, even on Taylor Street where I was living at in DC, at the end of the block, it was that 4-part home that was getting torn down. Yet the rest of the block was nice. And I'm like, from even cases we've covered in Atlanta, it's like you live on a nice block and then it's a boarded up home next door. So this could have been a similar case. So I have no doubt how it spread like wildfire. Somebody was probably looking out their window and said, y'all get over here, period.
And so it spread like wildfire. Like you said, that was a great term to use. So people are live streaming from their phones. There's, you know, literally live reporting. I was locked in. I was like, oh my gosh, y'all are seeing this happen live. So there happens to be a clip of her mother outside of the house, and mom is kind of going in like she does. And she's like, you know, they won't even tell me if that's my effing child in there. I just want to know if that's my baby in there. I want to know. And literally within minutes of her saying this, you see the police bring out this yellow tarp, and they're also covering the other side of the tarp with like another large piece of tarp or whatever. And you know that it's a body. So the people outside are trying to figure out who the body is. It was confirmed that the body they took out was Kei'Mani's.
Okay, can you tell me how far, do you know how far this home was from where Kei'Mani lived? Like, was this a familiar neighborhood to her? Or obviously it was a familiar neighborhood to the community.
Yes.
Like, they clocked it immediately.
Yeah, it was still in Toledo. I read so many articles yesterday. I'm having a little bit of brain fog, but I want to say it was a few miles away, like 3 to 5 miles away.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was miles away. So it was nothing that a 12-year-old at least was about to get up and walk to in the middle of the night.
No.
You know? So they in fact found Kei'Mani's body inside of this home. And here is how her body was found, the state and the condition. She was found with lacerations on her neck. The interesting thing is, and this is why, you know, I always tell people at the point of no return, we do share our own investigative journalist expert opinions, right? But at the same time, we do tell you all sides of the story and all the facts, because we are journalists. So we do want you to kind of form your own opinion, because maybe you disagree with us, and if you do, that's fine. I'm sure y'all seen Michelai and I, we don't agree on everything.
We rarely agree at all.
we think very differently sometimes. I can almost guarantee I can tell you what she's gonna think, what I'm gonna think, and how it'll differ. Sometimes we surprise ourselves. But anyway, I'm saying that to say, when I was looking up her cause of death and how she died, I was getting like one article said like she had marks on her neck. Another one said it was lacerations. Another one said it was cuts. And then finally, CBS News gave me the real. And then, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but randomly, People Magazine has a lot of crime tea now.
No, People Magazine is a crime magazine, if you ask me. I've been subscribed to People for a long time, and not for any other reason other than, you know, my day job, we cover entertainment. So it was just one of the many, like, publications I signed up for to get alerts to my email. 90% of those alerts are true crime. Like, they're deaths, murders, homicides, all of that. But they be doing some good reporting, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they have really good reporting. So I confirmed this with two sources. So with CBS News as well as People Magazine. And this is what they said happened to Kei'Mani's body. Kei'Mani's head was nearly decapitated. She was also sexually assaulted and her hands were cut off.
What's up with the people cutting off the hands?
And her hands were cut off. So, you know, my mind, as soon as I hear about hands cut off, I think about the person fought for their lives probably, and their skin
DNA.
or some kind of DNA under the person's fingernails. So, of course, you're not about to clean 10 dead person's fingernails. What are you going to do? Chop their hands off. And for some reason, I think that is what a lot of people end up doing. Or, in this case, since she was nearly decapitated, too, I'm wondering...
They were trying to take her head so she couldn't be identified, and they just didn't finish the job.
Yep. And her being sexually assaulted, but then her grandma finding her underclothes and her pajamas on the floor in the house when she got there.
I imagine she was likely assaulted there, and maybe she was murdered somewhere else.
Yes, I don't think she was murdered at the home. They didn't find any DNA. Yeah. So before I ask you who done it or who do you think did it, I'm going to share with you a little bit about her past with Child Protective Services. Mm-hmm. So her past with Child Protective Services, there was one report in 2023, 2 reports in 2024. Child Services said they found no reason to take Kei'Mani from the home at these specific times. And this was because they also interviewed with Kei'Mani, and Kei'Mani said that she was okay. Here's my problem with that.
And did something happen to prompt Child Protective Services coming to the home?
Just hold your horses. Hold those horses.
Well, lady, you done gave me what they said before you told me what happened.
Well, what did you tell me the other day about that episode? Just wait till you ask your questions. Hold on. Wait. Just wait. So, her past teacher, her 6th grade teacher, Kei'Mani was currently in the 7th grade. Mm-hmm. Her past 6th grade teacher from school year 23 to 24 said that she saw visible markings and bruises on Kei'Mani's body. This was a direct quote from the teacher. She said, "I made several reports to Lucas County Children's Services about the safety concerns that I had for her and her household. I know that she expressed to her peers that she was also afraid to go home." The other interesting thing was, literally on the news, it was a child that is in her current 7th grade class. This baby got on the news and said she was Kei'Mani's friend. She remembers seeing bruises on Kei'Mani's arms. Consistently. She remembers seeing that. So, the other interesting thing was Kei'Mani bounced around from a lot of different schools. She's only in the 7th grade. So that means from kindergarten to 7th grade, you've only been in school for how many years? 7 or 8 years, right?
Yeah.
In those years, Kei'Mani had been to 6 different schools.
So is it because there were a lot of schools, or was her family
It ain't that many damn
around?
schools.
Well, I'm asking because was her family physically moving around? Because you said she lived not too far from her dad, not too far from her mother, granny house. They all had to be moving in that time.
Well, according to news sources, it was also because of behavioral issues that she was having to go to so many schools. So another quote from a classmate: "She came to school with bruises on her arms, and she said her grandma was fighting her and that she always got into fights with her grandma." Grandma denies that there was any abuse. And, of course, when they did a check-in, they didn't find anything. So, from now, what you know about Dorothy, grandma, the mama, and Darnell, the daddy, who do you think killed this baby?
I mean, based on the suspects in front of me and the information that you have given me, something about the mother doesn't sit right, but I feel like if Kei'Mani didn't call her mother that night, she was scared. That was telling. So I'm like, okay, so she clearly didn't trust this woman. They had some other sort of relationship, and then the mom says she had other kids, so she probably had another man in her life. I wonder if it was one of those situations where Kei'Mani lived with her grandmother because the mother's partner maybe felt a way about Kei'Mani being around, or her being the older kid while he was building a family with her. You know, the weird situations. I don't know if it was that. The grandmother very well could be lying about the time she got home from work. I don't know what that could have been. The biggest thing, and the only people that said they saw the girl that night were the father and the cousin. So I'm like, oh, y'all went there, stayed for an hour, and then y'all left. You're telling me this girl calls y'all for help, physically tells y'all she's scared because she felt like somebody was trying to break into the home, and then y'all pull up, check on things, and then just leave her there. In my mind, I'm like, if you're her father, why would you even want to keep her in that situation? And you know that she stays. The fact that her parent was that close, regardless of custody, and this 13-year-old was staying at home overnight. You know me, when me and Sheena lived together on Taylor Street, you know, she had an overnight job. I would be scared to be in the house by myself. It's the whole reason why we got that big ass dog. So I'm just thinking about my own experience of being grown and not wanting to not wanting to be in a space by myself. And oftentimes if I felt scared, I was going somewhere else. So I'm also thinking, like, she tells you she's scared. What's it to you not to stay the night or let her stay at your house?
Yep.
So I'm going to say the father or the cousin.
Okay, so your money is on the father or the cousin?
My money's on the father or the cousin. If the mother didn't see her that night, unless you got some information you haven't told me.
No.
I feel like the mother's a bit of an actress, just from my experience watching that clip.
I do too.
And because she's crying, oh, my baby. And it's like, are you doing this for the cameras? Because, your baby, you had custody of her. She shouldn't have been at home that night by her goddamn self.
Exactly. I'm like, there's no reason for her to have been, I don't care how old she was. It's, in my opinion, 13 years old is not old enough to be at your house consistently overnight alone.
I can't even remember one night, Amanda, because it never happened in my lifetime. I can't even remember a group of hours where I would have been at home by myself. Like, there was maybe times where what my mom did trust us with is getting home. So we did take the light rail, we did take buses to get home, because weirdly enough, when I went to 8th grade through high school, I didn't live near my high school. So I had a sister that would take me to school, and we would take the subway to her job. And at one point, my mom lived in an apartment where we would go all the way there, which was about 20-30 minute commute. Either way, our commute was always set up for us not to end up home by ourselves. You know, I would take the subway to my sister's job. We would go check in at the front office of her job. They knew who we was. We would go to a little snack bar across the street. Then we would wait for her to come out of work. So I'm like, the things, like the extent, thinking of just what my family went through to make sure that I didn't end up at home alone. I'm just like, that for y'all to be this involved in this girl's life, the only option was for her to be at home while her grandma had an overnight job.
Yep.
I don't believe that.
Yep.
And I'm like, or why not during the week she was at her mother or her father's house, even if she wasn't staying there full time, for the simple fact of she wasn't sleeping alone.
You know, people are just negligent, and a lot of this stuff just don't make sense. In a lot of these cases that we've seen, we're like, why did this happen? Why? Common sense ain't common.
Okay, but let me critical think a little bit more, because let me go back to the friend saying that. Just bear with me, because I'm trying to get this right. Like, it's obvious
there's a lot of red flags here, right?
There's like, obviously a lot of negligence in caring for this girl, and it's like, I'm not a parent, but I also want to be like, how hard is it for all of y'all that, you know, hopped up for, you know, statements to the police, and mom, you know, being an actress on camera, like, were y'all this involved in her life? Because I'm confused, because going back to the teacher who said Kei'Mani had marks on her, and then Kei'Mani telling her friends multiple times that she'd be scared to go home. Her and her grandmother would be getting in fights. This literally is giving me like whodunit murder mystery vibes, because I'm like, grandma could have been hitting on her, but grandma also, you know, if her alibi stands and she was really at work when this happened, then, you know, physically she couldn't have been involved in the crime that night. That doesn't mean that she wasn't involved in it at all. Maybe she knew something was going on. Maybe she knew something was going down. Maybe she unlocked the door. Maybe she gave somebody the key. We don't know. Then we got Kei'Mani saying that, you know, Kei'Mani's friend saying that she often came to school with bruises on her. If that house is where she mainly was staying and the grandmother is who she mainly was seeing, who else could have been hitting on her?
Right.
Like,
and that was my whole kill. I'm like, I don't think it's mom. I think mom just wasn't.
I think mom's just careless. Yes, I think mom's careless. I want to write her off. I was just waiting for you to tell me that she saw Kei'Mani that night or something. Then I would have been like, oh, it was her. Guilty, guilty, guilty.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's either something. I don't think
It's
Grandma
something with
physically did
grandma
it.
or something with dad is what you're
I
thinking.
don't think Grandma physically did it. I feel like Grandma. I wouldn't be surprised if Grandma knew something or if she was involved. I'll leave that
Okay.
there. But based on who actually saw Kei'Mani that night, it had to be the dad or the cousin. Because why would the dad also offer up that he brought the cousin with him? Well, obviously for a witness. I found that interesting. But for them to say, yeah, we saw her for an hour and then we dipped.
Yeah, around 12:30. Okay. Darnell calls his girlfriend on Friday, March 21st. So this is the same week that Kei'Mani goes missing. And he asked her to turn off the cameras at their house.
He did it.
She got suspicious and left the cameras on despite his request.
Okay, so wait. Darnell calls the girlfriend on...
Darnell calls the girlfriend on Friday, March 21st. Okay? We know that she was technically reported missing by authorities
On the
on
18th.
Tuesday, March 18th.
And
But the last time that she was seen was the wee early morning hours on March 17th by her father, which was that Monday.
I'm...
Technically Sunday night, if we want to talk about, night to morning. So,
I have a question.
yes.
What day did they find the body? Sometime before the 21st?
So she was found on the 24th. That's the date that she was found.
Got it. So the body was found on the 24th.
Monday the 24th.
Darnell calls the girlfriend on the 21st, to ask her to turn off the cameras.
At the home, correct.
So this is before the body was found. But we don't know when the girlfriend calls the police. We just know she calls the police to tell them that he asked her on the 21st to turn the camera off.
Correct.
Okay.
And so according to what I'm getting, she didn't call the police until after Kei'Mani's body was found. And I'm
sense.
assuming she's just like, I don't want to, suspect that my man is up to no good or whatever. But I think she started to suspect him. So just listen to this. So she got suspicious and she left the cameras on. She says she was in her bedroom and a relative of hers that was also in the house saw Darnell move some items out of his car into the house and he hid them under the basement stairs. She also told the news and the police at this time that, I stand corrected. She told the news and the police, basically, they needed to come get the stuff at that house because she was suspicious at this point because he was hiding shit. So the police obtained a search warrant and then they took the evidence, okay? They also asked what he picked up from under the stairs. So this is what the woman told the police. She said it was like a mat for the back of your truck. Not a pickup, but an SUV. You know when you lay your seats down and you put that rubber mat in there to protect your back seats in case you're hauling something? That's what he rolled up and put in my basement, and his work boots, which were caked up with mud. And he hasn't worked in a while. I was suspicious. She said that once Darnell noticed that his items were gone, she never saw this man again.
What? Amanda, what? Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean? So he was coming in. Okay, so he didn't.
So that Friday. So Kei'Mani
wait,
goes missing on Monday.
So wait, he didn't live with her? It's not, well, this sounds like it was primarily her home.
I
he
think
was staying
yes,
there
it's her
often.
home, but you know how we do.
No, I don't know how we do because.
I mean ladies.
I was about
You
to
find
say
a man,
the-
he lay up, he at your house.
I was about to say the N word.
doing
I
great.
cannot believe that he would commit a crime and go hide some evidence at the girlfriend. That is egregious. Because now you done brought this lady into it, and I'm glad she kept that camera on, because had she not, she could be an accomplice to whatever crime he committed, because you ain't said if he did it or not. But keep going.
Yep. So, and I'm sure what really burned her too, because it would have burned me too. I would have been singing like a canary. You done hid your stuff at my house, and then you notice it's gone. So now you're not coming back. Oh, all right, cool. That's a bet. We're done.
Yeah.
So then the icing on the cake was she tells him, she tells them, yeah, I ain't seen that man since he noticed his stuff was gone. She then tells them he's not from Toledo. He's from Columbus, and that's probably where he is.
Oh, she's pissed.
So she drops the dime on him completely.
Yeah.
So I am going to share my screen one last time. Viewer discretion is advised for this particular video because something happens to Dad in this particular video. But I'm going to go on mute and then we'll talk about what we just saw once I'm done sharing my screen.
Okay.
Where, man?
What's your hands killing me?
Dude, show me your fucking hands right now.
Me, bro.
Pull your fucking hand out. I swear to God, pull your fucking...
Shots fired. Pass in a second. Medic, go.
Don't fucking move.
Don't move. All right, suspects down. All the guys are okay.
Don't move. That's 33 right there.
33 is here.
No, it's a little rocky, but there's 33s right here. Don't you move or you're going to get shot, okay? All right? Got it. Yep. That's him. Somebody get out.
Somebody get on the main air. Get us some medics.
I'm working on it.
All right. On your belly. All right. I got cuffs. There you go. Thank you, brother. We'll get you help, okay?
So for those of you who didn't physically see that, who aren't watching, and you're listening and you're in the house or in the car or wherever, what we just saw or what you just heard was a video of Darnell Jones. And Darnell Jones is Kei'Mani's father. Kei'Mani's father was approached by undercover cops in Columbus, Ohio, where they found him Tuesday morning after Kei'Mani's body was found on Monday. Mm-hmm. So they go to Columbus, they find him, and they shake him down, essentially. When they find him, he looks a little different than he normally looks. So, Michelai, you don't know this because I didn't show you a picture of Dad beforehand.
Oh, I saw him in that little clip before. He had braids.
Yes. Okay. And then you notice, what did he look like when they went to go pick him up?
He looked like me. He was bald.
Precisely. So earlier in the week, like Michelai said, there were videos and there were also pictures of him talking to the news about Kei'Mani and finding her, all that great stuff. And when that was happening, he had a head full of hair. And by a head full of hair, I don't mean like a temp fade or something, y'all. I mean, this man had braids. He went from braids to bald in 1 week. That's quite a transition. I'm not saying you can't make that transition, but also it's giving you didn't want to be found or you wanted to look like you had a disguise. Mm-hmm. So Dad has now shaved off all of his hair. And not only is he shaving off his hair, I'm wondering why the hell he had a walkie-talkie in his hand. He also had a gun in his hand. Did you see them kick the gun off to the side?
Yes. Well, I'm a little confused. I guess I'm going to bring that up now. Mm-hmm. I'm confused if police shot him or if he shot himself.
I believe the police, from what I saw, the police shot him. But I'm assuming what we didn't see when they went around that car from the one officer's body cam footage was when he popped his gun. Because if you notice, when the cops started moving around the car, that's when you really started hearing the gunshots.
Well, yeah, that's why. Well, I imagine the gunshots happened when he pulled the gun out. But like, if you hear what he says, like he says, "Don't shoot me," and then I thought he said something along the lines of, "I'll shoot myself" or something like that. But I'm like, I couldn't really make out what he
was saying.
I did hear him say, "Don't shoot me, don't shoot me."
Yes.
But on it, I also was looking at the type of, at least 2 of the 3 officers I saw in the video had stun guns. They didn't have the real gun in their hand. So I couldn't make out with the third cop, with the one furthest away, who had the best angle, honestly, probably to shoot Darnell. I couldn't tell or make out what type of gun
somebody
he
had a gun. He didn't shoot himself because the police report said that it was an officer involved shooting. Like, he was shot by law enforcement.
Okay.
So he was shot by law enforcement. He did have a gun in his hand. They saw the gun in his hand. and the bullet must have gone through his back or something like that. Also, if you were watching it, you can see a little bit of the blood like on his back and on the pavement as well. So they apprehend the dad, and as soon as they get him, he is charged with murder, felonious assault, and then the abduction of Kei'Mani as well. So those are his charges when they find him. And this was all based off of them collecting that mat that he hid under the stairs at the girlfriend's house, the girlfriend's report of what happened, and then also her telling the police where to find him in Columbus. So the girlfriend really cracked the code in this case in terms of kind of saying, you know, what went down and kind of getting justice for Kei'Mani.
I'm kind of proud of her, but I'm also kind of irritated with her because I wonder if she was only motivated to share the details about where he was and these details about the mud and, you know, all of that because he left. Well, granted, granted they got the search warrant and came and got the items before he left her, but it seems like when he left her, she was like, "Oh, by the way, he's from Columbus. He's probably over there." And it's like, it seems like you might have knew who he was before all of this really went down.
Yeah. So and guys, he's not deceased. Dad is okay. He was supposed to have an arraignment the next day. They weren't able to arraign him because he was in the hospital. So of course, you know, he's in the hospital for gunshot wounds, but he's alive and he will be able to stand trial when all of the, you know, the trial things start happening. But this whole case, again, it reminded me a lot of, you know, if you guys are following a lot of true crime stories, there was this one case, and we'll probably end up talking about it as they go to court in this case, unravels as well. But it was a case out of Detroit with this young lady. Her name is Naziah Harris. And Naziah, in my opinion, had a very negligent family. Honestly, worse than Kei'Mani's family, to an extent. Yeah. And anyway, it reminded me of Naziah because there's a lot of just like loose ends that I kept, like, I probably haven't even found all the tea that I wanted to find. But there's one other clip that I want to show you from Grandma that I found. And mind you, Mich, like I said, I'm finding this shit out yesterday. I'm thinking my script is done, right? And I'm looking on TikTok to see what the local videos look like when they were at her, you know, her site of where they found her body. That's really the stuff that I was looking for. I'm making sure I do my due diligence, and then I just keep seeing a list of other things pop up. I'm like, wait, I didn't hear about that. Wait, I didn't see that. I didn't see this. And so this is a video of Grandma herself. So I'm going to share my screen again so you can hear this video from Grandma. And what Grandma says to me is very interesting. And it's interesting because it's like, why do we allow our children around certain people? But give me one moment while I share my screen again.
It was told to me that he was her biological father. However, her biological mother has told me on several occasions that he is not. So I don't know what to believe, but I know that he was present. He's been more present than the biological mom. And I feel deceived. Like, you played for so long in my face, like you was her dad, like you really had her best interests at heart. But where is she?
So what do you make of that?
I mean, it seems like obviously the grandma was stretched thin and maybe needed resources, help to take care of Kei'Mani. And, you know, she just told us about her own daughter. Like, you know, he was around more than the mama was around, but clearly he was around for a specific reason. And it wasn't to take care of Kei'Mani. Because going back to her, you know, telling her friends that she was afraid to go home or, you know, always had marks on her. I wonder if it was, you know, she was getting beat from the grandma. That I think that could be true, but I also think it could be true that there was something obviously going on with Darnell. And whether he was visiting her often in the night hours because the grandma was at work. It'll be interesting to hear all of that when this case goes to trial, because maybe he also knew he wasn't her biological father. Whether he was or wasn't, like, there's obviously a correlation. And now I'm thinking back, if Kei'Mani even really called him that night, or if he just showed up like he normally would have because he was paying a visit.
Yep. And I think another interesting tidbit that I forgot to mention earlier, I know you had asked me, like, when was the last time that the mother saw Kei'Mani? And I skipped over this earlier in my script, but it was by accident. The date that she last saw Kei'Mani was on March 15th, 2025. And when she saw Kei'Mani, it was because Darnell brought Kei'Mani to the mother's house with the permission of Dorothy. So to me, that's also telling again about the mother, the fact that grandma is giving permission for Kei'Mani to go over the mother's house, and grandma isn't taking her over there. Darnell is. But also, you know, I don't think it's ever right to abuse a child in any way, especially sexually. But it also could make sense as to why, I mean, people, you know, are involved in incest all the time as well. So I'm not saying that. But it also could make sense a little bit as to why, if he was doing stuff to that girl, you know, he didn't see her as no daughter because maybe that wasn't his daughter. And we all know how that Dina works. Kei'Mani, to me, honestly, I mean, black people were interesting people. You know, you can have two brown-skinned parents and a child that's lighter than you, and vice versa. But to me, she kind of reminds me of shared mutual friends that we have that are black and white. And you saw what he looks like, and you saw what that mama looks like. So that very well may not be her daddy.
That'll be interesting. I wonder if they'll do
a DNA test.
I hope so. Because also I'm like, are y'all also just running with this information because the mom has said it, or have you guys actually gone to the extent of actually doing the DNA testing to find out
exactly
if that's Kei'Mani's dad or not? I also would love to know how many other kids she has and what ages they are, just because I'm nosy.
Yes.
And if she has a new partner, or if she just lives somewhere else with more kids. But yeah, it's obvious the grandmother trusted Darnell immensely. Yes. And I'm also thinking if grandma worked Friday night, Saturday morning she would have been getting off work, so that was probably her rest day. So I imagine Kei'Mani, outside of night hours, probably in day hours, spent a lot of time with Darnell.
Yep.
We don't know what type of relationship that they had. And I'm like, I hope this is not another situation like Naziah. Like, I'm just, like, getting chills thinking about them even, like, starting to go through Kei'Mani's phone and really seeing what her communication was like leading up to her final days. But for Darnell even to admit that he saw her the night that she was killed, is like, he actually told us from jump that he did it, if you really think about it.
And where's the cousin?
Yeah. And also, you drag somebody else into it, so I'm also thinking, were you also offering Kei'Mani up to this cousin? Did y'all cut some sort of deal? Like, I'm confused, because y'all alibied each other, but it's like, of course you alibi somebody with somebody you trust. I wouldn't have trusted that from jump.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised police wasn't on his ass sooner, if you really think about it.
Yeah, and I guess they were just saying, you know, they
had no body.
Yeah, they had no body. They had no evidence of anything.
Also, where are her hands?
What
did he do with them? Well, his shoes were muddy, so I imagine he was burying something somewhere.
And I'm also interested, they didn't confirm, but I'm wondering too, was her DNA on that mat? Or when they, you know, since they did say she was sexually assaulted, when they took the DNA off of her body, did it match his? So, you know, honestly, guys, this is going to be another case that you guys hear about again.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine if he was already in the system, they could have DNA matched for that reason.
Yeah.
Or they could have matched her DNA to that mat, and that's how they at least put him at the crime scene. I imagine that's what happened if they. And
honestly, it's so early in the game, they might not have even had to do that yet. It was evidence probably enough.
They could have been going and question him, and he was like, "Don't shoot me." Well, babe, thank you for letting us know that you did it. Also, you fled. Also, you cut your hair off.
You fled, and then
what if Darnell has nothing to do with it at all, and he brought his cousin? And the cousin did it.
I've also thought about that too. What if Darnell has nothing to do with it and he's covering up for somebody else?
Because maybe he owed him some money.
Or maybe there's no cousin at all and he's covering up for the mama or Dorothy or somebody else. I think the plot is a little thicker than we think it is for real. I don't know.
Because this is like, it just seems too easy. Because I feel like I'm also saying like, I also want the girlfriend, run the footage. What was he doing that night? Did you see him that night? Because she told us what he asked on Friday, but she didn't say nothing about what the camera was hitting for the night that he left. Because I'm like, can you at least tell us the gap of time? Did he really go over there for an hour? Did he leave at all? Was he there the whole night? Like,
Yeah.
there will be a lot more to come of this case. I see that for sure.
Yes, but I wanted to share some. I know that this story was kind of heavy and very, just disheartening. So some brighter news that I thought to share about the aftermath since Kei'Mani has been found. The other sad part is Kei'Mani was found that Monday, and by Thursday it was actually her 14th birthday. This community of Toledo, if you are from Toledo, Ohio, I'm saluting y'all. Y'all have really rallied around Kei'Mani and her legacy in these past 2 weeks. And I say that y'all are some stand-up folks. Y'all are community people. And y'all got y'all boots on the ground for sure. So this is why I'm saying that. I'm saying that because there was a memorial left on her desk by her teacher, her classmates. Beautiful memorial. You go to the school, like the teachers in Toledo really tapped in. Look, this was her current teacher. Love it. Then this was her desk at school. So they're commemorating her at school, but also the community had a birthday party for her on Thursday at a local park. So they held a birthday party for her. I told y'all they were putting up missing signs and they were having search parties and really putting in the work to make sure that she was found. And then they showed up to that house that day. So also there was a funeral home by the name of Brown Legacy Memorial. They put a post up and they were collecting money for her funeral. They collected over $6,000 to hold her funeral, and they ended up giving to another funeral home. I found out the next day. I don't know if something happened or they decided to go with another funeral home, but that Brown Legacy Memorial Funeral Home did end up still giving the next funeral home the money to have Kei'Mani's services there. So, of course, this is still a brand new case. This is still something that's ongoing. But even down to the city council, it was the city councilwoman that got on the news, and she was pissed. And she was just saying, like, there's something that we have to do with our child protective services and just making sure that the cases that we have are really tight and that they're really evaluated, because she just feels like this is something that could have possibly been avoided. And it's stuff like we've already seen. Yeah, even with Emily, how things, it was several reports that were given about Emily Pike. And when those were given out about her, what happened? Nothing. And then she ended up dead as well. So, if you guys know or see something and it is about a child being abused or anything, please say something. We know that these cases happen too often, and a lot of times they're happening right before your eyes and you may not even know it. So just pay a little extra close attention. But again, shout out to the people in Toledo that really did their big one in making sure that this baby was covered. And even though, she had an untimely death and something sinister happened to her, they still were able to commemorate her legacy. So there's more to come on this. You guys will hear more from us about this as this case continues to unfold. But until then, and until next time, I'm Amanda Washington.
And I'm Michelai Graham.
And this is the Point of No Return True Crime Podcast. Make sure that you leave us some reviews, follow us on social media, send us to your friends, subscribe to us on YouTube, all that great stuff, and we will catch you next episode. See ya.